ahead of VE Day this Thursday, we are celebrating today with our very own street party.
We are indeed. Now, as people at home celebrated VE Day, Allied soldiers in Germany were liberating the Nazi concentration camps, which were used for the mass murder of 6 million Jewish people during the Holocaust.
Eva Speakman's grandfather was one of the few Jewish prisoners to walk free from the most notorious camp of them all, Auschwitz. This is his story, which contains scenes which some viewers may find upsetting.
When Jewish prisoners arrived at the original Auschwitz camp, they would have entered through this infamous gate, which read, "Work sets you free."
Which seems particularly sadistic when an estimated 1 million prisoners died at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Many of them were used for slave labour. Sadly for them, freedom came from death.
My granddad, Jerzy Bielski, known as George, was just 21 when the Nazis invaded Poland. He tried to hide, but was betrayed and was imprisoned in the camp that would become the Nazis' largest extermination centre. The Auschwitz-Birkenau archive preserves information about prisoners like my grandfather to ensure they will be remembered, and Dr. Poissa is the head archivist.
So, Dr. Poissa, there's 2 documents that you found in the archives that belong to my grandfather.
The first one, personal card issued by the Division of the Employment of Prisoners here in Auschwitz, with family name, first name, date of birth, and also the prisoner number, with information that Mr. Bielski was here in the camp, work as an electrician.
The second document refers to his time in hospital, and to find 2 records is incredible when you consider that to hide their crimes, the Nazis destroyed around 90% of them.
So I feel very lucky that you managed to find this, that this is still here, to prove that my granddad was here.
As I walk through the camp, I notice that the only sound is that of other visitors and the gentle voices of their guides like Mirosław, and that's intentional.
This place needs silence. It is the biggest cemetery in the world. Place needs respect.
My granddad and the other prisoners lived in these blocks. Many have been converted into an exhibition about life in the camp, including possessions confiscated by the Nazis.
Oh, there's an Eva there on that case. It makes you wonder, you know, what was she like and what did she endure?
Some, like this display of shoes, are particularly difficult to take in.
And I think that we have to see that there was a foot on a person in every single pair of shoes in this place. Oh my God. Some of these shoes you can see are just from little ones that probably were only just learning to walk. And then they got that taken away from them. My granddad George was regularly tortured by the Nazis. He was beaten, whipped, and even shot. And ironically, he was one of the lucky ones.
As we heard earlier, he got a job as an electrician, a skill in short supply. However, whilst it saved him from death in a gas chamber, it also meant he was forced to witness the atrocities committed there.
I'm about to walk into the only gas chamber and crematorium that's left standing. I think this is going to probably be the hardest part of being here. And whilst we're in here, we have to observe full and complete silence.
Prisoners were herded into this room naked. The poison gas, Zyklon B, was dropped through holes in the roof, killing up to 700 people in less than 15 minutes. As an electrician, my granddad was kept on standby and was forced to hear the panic inside. The next voice you hear is his.
When the people were exterminated in gas chambers, sometimes they managed to climb up on the bodies of the others and damaged the electrical cable. And that's how we were allowed to go into the gas chambers to repair it.
So why did they build Birkenau?
In Birkenau, SS erected their 4 big gas chambers and crematoria, and in fact, Birkenau became the center of mass extermination of Jews. It would be possible to kill even 10,000 people in Birkenau in the gas chambers
10,000 people
during
in one
10-15 minutes. The gas chambers were used only once a day because cremation of bodies lasted nearly 2 days.
So the only reason they didn't kill more every day is they couldn't burn the bodies quickly enough. That made my blood run cold and added to the difficult mix of emotions from my visit.
The horror of the atrocities committed here, the gratitude that my granddad survived and lived a fulfilled life, and my appreciation to everyone who worked so hard to preserve this camp as a reminder, because this can never happen again.
Wow.
And Eva is with us now. Eva, I mean, that must have been so incredibly difficult for you.
It really was, because I did visit once when I was a child. I was only 9 years of age. And I guess that at that time I was going as a tourist. I had no clue about my granddad or his story. We hadn't actually found him at that point. And so to go back, then having heard my granddad's story from his own lips, and knowing what he'd endured and what he'd been through, to go back again, it just made it so personal.
Yeah.
It was like a part of us, my family, had been there and been there for such a long time, which was quite incredible as well.
What was it like? Obviously, like you said, you went there when you were young, you didn't know the history, almost as a tourist to you know, visit that site. I've never been there myself, but knowing, going back now, that you were stood where your granddad was, and he was there not when it was the place we see now, but the place when it was active.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind?
I mean, I was imagining the things that he'd actually said to me, and Mirosław, the guide, also sort of put it into perspective that pretty much everywhere you walked in that camp, somebody fell. Yeah. Somebody lost their life. And it's just so important that we do maintain that story, carry on that story. And as I say, you know, this to me was all, you know, my mum didn't know her father, and it was only literally within her mum's dying breath that she told my mum her father's name. She said, you know, your dad is Jerzy Bielski. He lives, last I heard, he lived in Australia. And then Mum went on this mission to find him. She couldn't find him through the Red Cross because he'd changed his name.
Because he changed his name during the trials, wasn't he?
He did. So after the war, because he'd been in there for nearly 3 years, which even, you know, the people at Auschwitz said to me, is just remarkable. But he was so determined that he wanted justice. Justice for the loss of his family, justice for the loss of his mum. You know, he literally witnessed not just his family executed and tortured in barbaric ways, but also that of so many thousands of people that he, you know, he wanted to carry on. So he actually, after the war, was one of the key witnesses who stood at the Nuremberg trials to be able to, he'd identified those key SS officers, those Nazis who were instrumental in the genocide and the murders that took place there. And he, you know, I've seen the transcripts from the Nuremberg trials, and it was thanks to him that a lot of them were found and were then tried as well.
He did a huge amount, didn't he?
He did, yeah. I mean, so proud of him, of what he did. And like I said, my mum couldn't find him through the Red Cross, so eventually with private detectives found him. And I remember... What
was it like when you met him?
Yeah, so when I met him, well, first of all, it was when we first heard of him, that they'd found him. We heard that they'd found him, but he had to contact us. And I remember the phone ringing at 5 o'clock in the morning, me running to the phone and hearing this voice asking for my mum, asking, is Yola there? My mum, and I was like, oh. And I just thought, this is him. And I ran upstairs and I woke my mum, like, Mum, your dad's on the phone, I'm sure of it.
No way.
And then meeting him was just fascinating because he wanted everybody to know. He wanted everybody to know about what had happened there. He wanted everybody to know about the suffering, the pain, the loss of life. He wanted everybody to know that this can never, ever happen again. And he did speak to us, but I can't deny it. And it's a bit embarrassing to say he lived it, but but myself and Nick, when he was telling us these stories, would often say, Grandad, can we stop for a little bit now? Because it was so hard.
It's a lot, yeah.
It was so emotional, so difficult to listen to what you'd actually seen.
What an incredibly strong man.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And my mum turned out to be exactly the same, and yet she only met him in her 30s. But yeah, he...
That's obviously where you get it from, isn't it?
But he was. I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud and grateful to be able to tell his story and to share, you know, that, again, you know, what happened there and the fact that this can never, ever be replicated.
But we're just so proud and grateful that you shared your story with us, Eva.
Thank you for making
thank
the film.
you, because it's a real beautiful piece that you've done for us. So
Thanks
thank you so much,
Thank
Eva.
you.
And send our love to everyone.
Oh, hello. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.